Good morning to all. In today's class, I will explain arrays in Java. Okay, already you know arrays in C language, no? So arrays in C language is entirely different from arrays in Java language. So that's why try to understand arrays concept in Java. It is totally different. Okay. Now coming to the arrays in Java, arrays are objects in Java. Because Java is an object-oriented programming language, no? That's why everything is with respect to objects only we have to discuss. So for that reason, arrays are objects in Java. In C language, we don't have the object-oriented programming language concept, no? That's why that array is different from this array. So here every array, if you take any array, that is an object. You know the concept of object, no? Object is an instance of the class. You know the relation between class and object. Class is a template for an object and object is an instance of the class. Okay, so here array is an object. Now, array is an object means what does it mean? Object means some class must be there, no? Without classes, there are no objects. First class we have to define. For that class, we need to create objects to access the members of the class. So if you take any program in Java, first we should write classes, followed by create objects for those classes. Okay, what is the purpose of creating objects for the classes in Java is to access the members of the class. Okay, only the purpose of objects is to access the members of that class. For which class you are creating object, no? Okay, so with that object we can access the members of the class. That's why always class is defined first. So after defining the class with state part and behavior part, we can create the members of that class. That is the relation between class and object. So here we are saying arrays are objects in Java, means some class must be there, no? So here array is a predefined class in Java. Okay, it is a predefined class. So here the syntax for this predefined class is class array. Okay, inside that one instance variable is there, that is length. So what is the purpose of this instance variable length in this array class is using this, okay, we can find the length of the array. Array means fixed size, no? You know the difference between arrays and pointers. Arrays means we must define the size and memory is allocated during the compile time for the arrays. You know these 2 points, no? Okay, so here and the other point is we can store only homogeneous data inside array. You know the difference between arrays and structures in C language. Arrays store homogeneous data, means the same type of data, whereas structures store the heterogeneous data. So inside structures we can take, okay, different data types. So arrays always hold homogeneous data. If you create the array for int, then we can store only integers in that array. You can't store any other data type. That's why the main important point to remember with respect to arrays is arrays hold only homogeneous data. They cannot hold heterogeneous data like structures. Okay. Now this is the predefined class array. Inside this we have one instance variable called length, and using this length we can find the length of the array. So remember, length is an instance variable in the array and array is the predefined class. So length is an instance variable which is available in array class, which gives the size of the array. It is not variable here. Correct it as array. Okay. Now here this no need to put this. Okay, this parenthesis. Why? Because see, length is an instance variable, not method. Okay. Now here method is also there. Length is a method in string class to know the length of the string. So length is an instance variable inside array class, and length is a predefined method which is available in the predefined class string. So understand the difference between variable length and this method length. But here we are discussing arrays now. That's why don't put this parenthesis. So simply write length. Length is an instance variable which is available in array class. Already always you have to take the first letter as capital letter. Don't write like this, okay? In array class which gives the size of the array. That's why here this is the predefined class. Next. Coming to arrays, there are two different types of arrays we can create in Java language. So what are the two different types of arrays we can create in Java languages? Based on the data type. Already explained, we have two different types of data types in Java language. They are primitive data types and non-primitive data types. Variables are also two types, primitive variables, reference variables. Like that, based on these data types, we have two types of arrays. What are the two types of arrays? Arrays of primitives and arrays of object references. So understand the difference between arrays of primitives and arrays of object references. So what is the difference between these two is, what is first one is arrays of primitives, no? Arrays of primitives means we can create an array using any one of the 8 primitive data types. Already explained primitive data types in depth. We have only 8 primitive data types. They are byte, short, int, long, float, double, char, boolean. These are the only 8 primitive data types which are available in Java language. If you create an array by using any one of these 8 primitive data types, then that is called array of primitives concept. Okay, next, what is array of object references? Object references means we have to take classes. The object means always class must be there. So for classes, if you create arrays, then that concept is nothing but array of object references. So in Java, we can create arrays in two ways. Arrays of primitive types and arrays of object references. Arrays of primitives is nothing but we can create array using any one of the 8 primitive data types. Array of object reference is nothing but we can create array for classes. Like student, for student class, when you create objects, no, at the time of object creation, we can use arrays for student class. Like that for box class, for employee class. Okay, whenever you create objects for these classes, at that time we can use array concept. Okay, I will explain this concept with program. Okay, now first we will complete array of primitives. Again in arrays, we have one-dimensional arrays, two-dimensional arrays, three-dimensional arrays, like that n-dimensional arrays are there. In C language also, you know now, array means it can be one-dimensional, two-dimensional, three-dimensional, or it can be n-dimensional. So first we will discuss one-dimensional arrays. Now, coming to one-dimensional arrays. First, now we are taking the concept arrays of primitives. After completion of this concept arrays of primitives, we will go for arrays of object references. Okay. Now, first one is arrays of primitives. So when you create arrays, here three concepts are important. How do we declare an array? How do we create an array? And how do we initialize the array? These three are important with respect to arrays: declaration, creation, and initialization. First I will explain declare. How do we declare an array? So here in Java, the array declaration is like this: int followed by square brackets followed by variable name. So how to read this one? A is an array variable which is of int data type. It is normal. It is not normal variable. Okay, because here we are putting square brackets. No, see, this is square brackets. No, if one square brackets is there, then it is one-dimensional array. If you take 2 like this, then that is two-dimensional array. Here we are taking only one, no? That's why I can say it is one-dimensional array. So how to read this one? A is an array variable which is of int data type. So instead of this syntax, I can also use this syntax, that is int a, okay, followed by this square brackets. But this syntax is the better. Why? Because when you read this statement, how do I read? A is an array variable which is of integer type, means integer type of array. Okay, so we can use either syntax, but follow this one. Okay, for example, similarly, we can create array for, or we can declare array for byte, boolean. So instead of this int, I can take any primitive data type. We have 8 primitive data types, no? So here in this place, in place of data type, I can use any one of the 8 primitive data types. Like that, we can create arrays for characters, or character data type, boolean data type, floating point data type, and integer data type. Okay, next, this is the declaration of the array. Next, how do we create an array? So here in the, when this statement is executed, only a reference variable is created, because array is an object, no? So reference variable, for inside this reference variable a, null is stored. See, take this reference variable, and here null is stored. Means it is not pointing to any object. That's why when you declare an array inside the memory, inside the variable a, null is stored. Okay, next. How do we create the array is int same, declaration is same, which is equal to, this is the right side is nothing but object creation. So new int, inside the square brackets, write the size of the array. Now this is the integer array creation, which is of one-dimensional. So here you know the size of this integer array is 5. So you know now whenever you write, whenever you use new operator, it is nothing but object, no? So now you can understand array is an object. So with this syntax, or after execution of this statement, the memory part is like this. So inside the memory, an object is created for array, and inside that, what is the size of this one? 5. You know array index starts from 0, no? So 0 to 4. And so see, inside the object, array is stored. But if you take C language, only array is stored like this, and the base address of this array is stored in this variable, array variable. In case of arrays in C language, we are talking about, or we are talking with base addresses. Means the base address of this array is stored in this array variable in case of C language. But in Java, array is an object. That's why an object is created. Inside that, array is stored, and each and every object is having some unique address, no? The address of this object is stored inside the variable, inside this variable a. A is called array variable. Okay. Next, here one more important point is, because inside the predefined class we have one instance variable, no? That is length, no? So length is also stored inside this object in addition to this array. So using this length variable, we can know the size of the array. Okay, so this is the memory part for arrays. See, if you observe, inside the object array is stored. That's why array is an object in Java. So in addition to this object, length is also stored because it is an instance variable. No? Already explained so many times. The instance variables are stored inside the object. So because length is an instance variable of array class, that's why length is also stored inside this object. So this is the memory part for this statement. Okay. Next, after that, what is the third one? Initialization. So how do we initialize this array? Now when the statement is getting executed, then inside these, okay, inside these 5 places, that is a of 0, a of 1, a of 2, a of 3, you see zeros are stored. So why zeros are stored is, the compiler will assign default values based on the data type while creating the arrays. So this second step is array creation. No? means initialization is not done. Then what the compiler will do is, whenever this statement is getting executed by the compiler, at the time of compilation, compiler will store default values inside the array based on the data type. Here, what is the data type of this array? Int. Already you know the data type for int is 0. Not data type, the default value for int is 0. That's why zeros are stored. Suppose if it is float, 0.0s are stored. Okay. If it is char, \u 4 zeros are stored. If it is boolean, false is stored inside each and every index of this array. So based on the default data type, the compiler will store the values. Okay. Now because it is an integer array, that's why zeros are stored. Next. So here see, again I am explaining. Well, if you declare an array, okay, if you write only this statement, A is an array variable which holds null. Next, whenever you execute this statement, this because of this right hand side part, an object is created for an array. Inside that, okay, array is created with size 5, and inside these 5 places, based on the default data type of that particular, based on the default value of that particular data type, the default values are stored. And this it is having some address, no? That address is stored inside the array variable A. So this is very, very important. Next, up to this we have created an array like this in the memory. Next, after that, these are only default values, no? But I want actual values, no? So how do I get actual values, or how do I place actual values inside this array? That is nothing but initialization of the array. So these three are very, very important. If you understand these three, arrays are very, very easy. First, how do we declare an array? How do we create an array? And how do we initialize an array? Now, till now I have explained declaration and creation of an array. Now I am going to explain initialization of an array. Okay. Next, if you see the syntax of this creation of an array, this syntax is same as this one. We can write in 2 steps, or we can write in single step. If you want to write 2 steps, this is declaration, this is creation. So we can combine declaration and creation, and we can write in a single step. Okay. Generally we use only 1 step. Otherwise we can use like this also if you want to declare and create statements separately. Next, with this declaration and creation of an array is completed. Now how do I access, I will explain these 2 points also. How do I access or how do I know the length of the array? Is using a.length, because this is an instance variable which is stored inside array object, no? So using this instance variable, I know the length of the array. But how do I access the instance variable of this object is using this variable a. That's why a.length. Like s1 dot roll number, s1 dot name in students class. Like that, a.length gives you the length of the array, which is 5. Next, how do I access or how do I retrieve the values, okay, which are stored inside this array? Using again the same variable. This is arrays are with respect to indexes we will talk now. So array index starts from 0 now. That's why a of 0 will give you the value of the value which is stored in this place. That's why I can access a of 0 which is 0, a of 1 which is 0, like that a of 2 0, a of 3 0, a of 4 0. Okay, like that I can retrieve the values of this array. Next. Next, coming to the initialization part. This is very, very important. See, there are 5 ways to initialize an array. What are the 5 ways? Direct initialization, we can use for loop, and or we can use command line arguments, we can use buffered literal class or scanner class. So these are the 5 ways. Okay, we can initialize an array. Using these 5 ways, we can initialize the array. Now we will see one by one. First one is direct initialization. What is direct initialization? I will explain with the programs. Okay, I will explain each concept with one program. Then you can easily understand. Now here test is a class. Inside that I have written main method. Inside that I have created an array. You know the array creation syntax is this. Okay, it consists of both declaration and creation. That is integer array I am creating with the size 4. Next, how do I initialize the array? This is direct way of initializing the array. That is, how do I access these using indexes only, no? That's why, how do I access this one? That is using a of 0. That's why, how do I assign the value in this place is using a of 0. So a of 0 is 2, a of 1 is 3, a of 2 is 4, a of 3 is 7. Means I have created an array with the size 4, no? That's why using indexes I am accessing these. That's why with this array variable I can retrieve these. That is, here I am not retrieving, I am assigning the values inside the array. That's why a of 0 is 2, a of 1 is 3, a of 2 is 4. Like this, no, I have assigned. So if you see with this statement, inside the array we have default values. These default values are assigned by the compiler at the time of compilation. Whenever you write or whenever you assign your own values, the default values are replaced with your values. My value is a of 0 is 2, no? That's why 0 is replaced with 2. Like that, a of 1 is 3. So 0 is replaced with 3. Like that, these 4 zeros are replaced with these 4 values. Means some meaning is there now for this array. Zeros means there is no meaning, no? That's why we have to replace the default values which are assigned by the compiler with your own values. Okay. Next. So these are with these 4 statements we are assigning the values to the array, no? After that, how do I retrieve the values of this array? Using this statement. That is what system.out.println array elements are. Next, system.out.println I am displaying the array elements. Again, how do I retrieve using indexes only, no? That's why a of 0 space a of 1 space a of 2 space a of 3. Then the output of this program is, if you execute, 2, 3, 4, 7. That is the output. So this is the direct initialization of the array. That is the first way of initializing the array. Next, what is the next one? For loop. Already you know in for loop in C language, no? For one-dimensional array, we use one for loop for reading the array and one for loop for writing the array. So in arrays, we use for loops to read and write. If it is one-dimensional, we use one for loop. If it is two-dimensional, we use 2 for loops. If it is three-dimensional, we use 3 for loops. Like that, using for loops, we can read and write the array. In the same way, here also, I am using for loop to initialize the array. Now same test main method. And now here I am creating floating or for float data type, I am creating array. Because float is a primitive data type, that's why it is primitive array. How do I declare and create array for floating point data type float? Okay, f is equal to new. Actually, it is float only. Strike off this double and take float only. Okay. So for float data type, I am creating the array with size 4. That's why how do I write the syntax? Float square brackets f is equal to new float square brackets 4. Always we need to mention the size in the right hand side only. If you write the size in the left hand side, you will get compiler error. And if you won't write the side in the right hand side, you will also get compiler error. So the rule is that don't write the size in the left hand side square brackets, but you must write size in the right hand side brackets. So this is one more rule we have to remember with respect to arrays. Next, I have created an array I have created a one-dimensional array for float data type. Float is a primitive data type. That's why this concept is called array of primitives. Next, after that, with this statement, what will happen in the memory? So same, an array is created with size 4 and default values are stored. Okay, and these default values are assigned by the compiler during the compilation time. You know the default value for float data type is 0.0. That's why all 0.0.0.0. So these are assigned by the compiler during the compilation time. Now I want to replace the default values which are assigned by the compiler with my values. Now how do I give my values? Is using for loop. It is nothing but initialization of the array. Okay. Now I am using only one for loop because I am writing a program using one-dimensional array concept. That's why I will use only one for loop. So inside for loop, how do I retrieve the size of the array is using this instance variable length. So for int I is equal to 0, I less than f dot length. What is f dot length? F dot length will give you 4. That's why int I is equal to 0, I less than f dot length means I less than 4, I plus plus. Inside that I am assigning I plus 1 to each and every means for all these 4 I am assigning with I plus 1. So how do I write the statement? I plus 1 is assigned to f of I. So when this for loop is executed first time, I is having 0 means f of 0 is equal to 0 plus 1, 1. So f of 0 is 1. See, actually it is 1. She has written indexes, not values. So 0.0 is replaced by, here she has written 1.0. Next, second one is 2.0, third is 3.0, fourth is 4.0. Okay, like that we are initializing the array with for loop. This is reading the array. And how do we retrieve the values of this array? Means I want to display these 4 values. Again I am using one more for loop. See, this first for loop is for reading the array and this for loop is for writing the array. So same, again I will take f dot length. So when for int I is equal to 0, I less than f dot length I plus plus system dot out dot println f of I, means it will print all these 4 values using this for loop, and the output is 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, 4.0. So this is the second program for initialization of the array, that is using for loop. Next, what is the third one? Command line arguments. You already explained command line arguments, no? Command line arguments are stored as string type, no? Now I am initializing this array using command line arguments. Means during the runtime or at the time of writing this statement, that is Java test. Okay, this is how do we execute the programs now. At the time of writing this statement, we have to give the values. These are nothing but command line arguments. Means at runtime we will give the values. Okay. Now class test, same. Public static void main string args. Now this is important. So this is mainly used for only command line arguments. If you give command line arguments at runtime, this will be executed. If you won't give values at the time of execution, so it will not be executed. Okay, this is only for command line arguments. See here already you know, now I am explaining one-dimensional array now. Is it one-dimensional array? Syntax. Is it the declaration of one-dimensional array? Yes. So it is which data type? String data type. And what is the name of the array variable is args. So here string square brackets args means args is an array variable. Okay, args is an array variable which is of which data type? String data type. Means this array will hold only strings. Okay, because it is homogeneous. Arrays are homogeneous in nature. Means it can hold only homogeneous data. So now you can identify this is one-dimensional array and with string data type, and string is a class. So it is array of object references. Means the second type of array we are using. Already explained arrays are of 2 types. No? Arrays of primitives, arrays of object references. So it comes under array of object references. This syntax is array of primitives. Again, I will explain array of object references in depth with one program. Now try to understand. This syntax is array of object references and this syntax is array of primitives. Okay, because int is a primitive data type and string is a class type. That's why it is called array of object references. Next. Inside the main method, I am creating one array with size 4. That's why here it is an integer array with size 4. Means after execution of this statement, memory part is like this, and inside this array, zeros are stored. Because the default data type for int is 0, that's why compiler will assign zeros. Okay. Next after that. Now next, this is the declaration and creation of an array. No? Now I have to initialize the array with my values. No? So how do I replace these default values which are assigned by the compiler is, here I am using again for loop, and inside the for loop I am using command line arguments concept. So command line arguments is nothing but here I at runtime means Java test I am giving 4 values. That is 2, 4, 7, 8. Now these 4 values are stored inside this string array. And now here whenever you give command line arguments like this, an array is created with size 4 because I have given 4. I have taken 4 values now here. So here I have given 4 values. That's why args is an array variable which is holding the address of the array, and that array is created with string data type, means it can hold only strings, but here I have given integers. So based on this string data type, all these integers are converted into strings or are stored as strings. So in the same way you can write one more array, args, and take object, inside that object take array which is string array, and inside that first indexes are 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Inside the first index, this 2 is stored as string, means 2 with double quotes is stored. In the next 4 with double quotes, 7 with double quotes, 8 with double quotes, and the address of the object is stored in this variable args. Here it need not be args. You can take any variable as you like. This is a user defined variable only. But why we are writing args always is to understand that it is for command line arguments. Arguments short form is args. Now here I have given command line arguments now 4 values. Now I am taking for loop. That is int I is equal to 0, I less than a dot length I plus plus. Inside that I will write a of I is equal to integer dot parseInt of args of I. Means when the loop is repeated first, when the loop is executed first time I is equal to 0, no? Means args of 0. What is args of 0? Here one more object is there, no? That is args of 0 is nothing but string 2. Args of 0 will give you string 2. But here I am using integer array, no? Means inside this array I have to store only integers. I can't store strings, because arrays hold only homogeneous data. Because of that I can't store strings as it is here. That's why I need conversion. Means conversion of string into integer is required. Already explained this. Integer is a wrapper class. Inside that parseInteger static method. So static method of one class can be accessed outside the class using class name dot static method name. That's why integer dot parseInt of args of 0. Args of 0 is string 2, and string 2 is converted into integer 2, and it is stored in a of 0. That's why a of 0 holds 2. Next, similarly the loop is repeated 4 times, and these 4 default values are replaced with these values 2, 4, 7, 8. Okay. Next, this is the initialization of an array using this command line arguments concept. After that, we have to display these 4 values. How do I display? Again, using one for loop. So for int I is equal to 0, I less than a dot length I plus plus system dot out dot println a of I means a of 0 gives 0, not 0, 2. So the output is 2, 4, 7, 8 because these are the 4 values which are stored inside this array. No? So the output of this for loop is 2, 4, 7, 8. So this is using command line arguments. Next, last two concepts are very, very important. Till now we have not discussed these two concepts. You know, no, in C language, scanf statement is used to read the value through the keyboard. No? Okay, till now I have not explained in Java how do we read a value or how do we take a value through keyboard. Through keyboard means whenever you execute a program, you can give different values. No? Till now we have seen only initialization at the time of declaration. Means if you take int I is equal to 10, means irrespective of the number of times execution, always I is holding 10, no? But it is not correct, no? Okay, in one execution I want to give 20 for I. In the next time if I want to execute the same program, I want to give for I 20. Like that I want to change the values of I for each execution. But if you initialize at the time of declaration that variable, you can't change the value, no? If you run 100 times also, the same value is there for I. Okay. Now, how do we solve that problem is, we have to take the values through keyboard. How do we take the values through keyboard in Java is using these two classes. These two are very, very important. Buffered reader class and scanner class. See, this is similar to scanf statement in C language. You know, printf enter the value of A. Scanf %d within double quotes, comma ampersand A, no? This scanf statement in C language is used for taking a value through keyboard. If I run the program first time, I will take the value for A as 10. Next, after that, when I execute second time the same program, again it will ask you to give one value. At that time I will give 100. Like that I can give the values through keyboard for each run. In C language it is scanf, means scanf purpose, or the function scanf is used in C language for reading the values through keyboard. Like that, in Java language, we have two classes, buffered reader class and scanner class. These two classes are used to take the values through keyboard. Okay, it is similar to like scanf statement in C language. Now understand these two programs, very, very important. Buffered reader class and scanner class. So buffered reader class, first I will explain. So buffered reader class is a predefined class. Okay, it is a predefined class. In Java, classes are of two types, user-defined classes and predefined classes. Okay, predefined classes are designed by Java developers. We can't change those classes. Only we should know how to use the predefined classes, that's it. Okay, go to API, go to Java API. There you can find predefined classes. Okay, user-defined classes means we are writing on our own. That is student class, next box class, employee class. All these are user-defined classes. No, you can write your classes as you like. But these predefined classes are designed or developed by Java developers. We can't modify or we can't change. Only we should know how to use the predefined classes. Okay, go to Java API. There you can find so many predefined, hundreds of predefined classes, but you need not go through all the classes. It is very difficult to understand all the predefined classes. Only some of the predefined classes, that is like buffered reader class, scanner class, system class, string class, and all wrapper classes, integer, float, double, like that. At least you should know some predefined classes and the importance of those predefined classes. Okay. Now buffered reader, here there is no space, B capital, R capital. Okay. This is the naming convention for class. So buffered reader is a predefined class. It is available in which package? Okay, every class must belong to one package, no? If we write student class student, on the top of that we have one default statement, that is import java.lang.star, no? See here, this is a predefined, all the predefined classes must belong to one predefined package. This is one more important point to remember. Package means it consists of classes and interfaces. Next I will explain the packages concept. Now try to understand. Package is a collection of classes and interfaces. So it is a predefined class, so it must belong to one predefined package. Okay, so it is available in java.io package. Next, java.io is a predefined package. Again, packages are also two types, predefined packages and user-defined packages. Next, while discussing packages concept, we will discuss user-defined packages and how do we write user-defined packages. In packages, I will explain. Okay. Now, remember, java.io is a predefined package like java.lang. You know, the default package statement is java.lang, no? Like that, java.io is a predefined package. In this package, we have one class, that is buffered reader class. Okay, so buffered reader is a predefined class which is available in java.io package. Now I will explain the syntax, or the one method is there, I will explain here. Now class buffered reader, it is a predefined class. Inside this predefined class, we have one method which is a predefined method and which is non-static method. Okay, that is readLine, R small L capital. So readLine is a predefined method which is a non-static method which is available in the predefined class buffered reader. So now this method plays very important role to read the or to take the value through keyword. So readLine method of buffered reader class is very important. So the readLine method is not taking any parameters, and the return type of readLine method is string. It returns string, and which is a non-static method. Now remember these points. So here put braces. Okay, because it is a method, no, means open brace, closing brace. Okay, after that we will see this one, because inside this method we don't know the code, because it is a predefined method, no, they will not give you the code. Only we should know how to use this method, that's it. So you need not worry about the code of this readLine method. But here simply put open brace, closing brace, means function, this definition of that readLine method. No need to concentrate on the code of this readLine method. Okay. Now what is the return type of this readLine method is string. Now again I am repeating the same statement. ReadLine method, or readLine is a predefined method which is available in buffered reader class, which is a non-static method, and the return type of readLine method is string. These points are enough. Why we should concentrate on static method and non-static method is, static method of one class can be accessed outside the class directly using the class name. Directly means using the class name. No need to create objects. If you want to use static method of one class outside the class, that is in our class, no need to create object for that class. Okay, with class name directly I can access that method, static method. Okay, but here it is non-static method. Because of this non-static method, first I should create object for this buffered reader class. With that object only I can access readLine method of this buffered reader class, because readLine method is a non-static method. Okay, so that's why first if any method you have, okay, first you need to check whether it is static method or non-static method. Okay, static method of one class can be accessed outside that class using class name, but non-static method of one class can be accessed outside the class using object reference only. With class name I can't access non-static method of one class outside the class. Always non-static methods are accessed with object references only. Static methods can be accessed with objects or with class name. But when we want to access, when there is a possibility to access the static method with buffered reader class, how do I create object? It is waste of time, no? That's why static methods use directly with class name. Non-static methods always use with object reference. You remember these 2 points with static method and non-static method. Okay. Now, if you understand this concept, program is 1 minute. Next, it is which method, static method or non-static method? You know, read line is a non-static method, no? There is no static keyword here for this read line method. If there is no keyword static for this method, then this is called non-static method. So non-static methods of one class can be accessed outside the class using object reference only. So for that reason, we have to create object for this class first. To access read line method of this buffered reader class, first we need to create object for this buffered reader class. With that object reference only, we can access read line method of this class. That's why what is the next point? How to create or how do we create object for buffered reader class to access the read line method of buffered reader class. Okay, without object, you can't access read line method of buffered reader class because read line method is a non-static method. Okay. Now that's why first I should know how do we create an object for buffered reader class. We will see. So buffered reader BR is equal to new buffered reader of new input stream reader of system.in. System.in is nothing but for taking keyboard value. You know system.out, no? In Java we are using system.out.println for printing the statement. System.out.println. Like that, system.in is used for taking the value from the keyboard. And this is the syntax of object creation for buffered reader class. You should remember this. After that, when we discuss readers and writers classes, there you can understand why we should take input stream reader as a parameter of this buffered reader class. Directly you can't write buffered reader BR is equal to new buffered reader of system.in. Directly you can't write. That's why you need to remember this entire statement to create an object for buffered reader class. So again I am repeating, buffered reader BR is equal to new buffered reader of new input stream reader of system.in. After that I will invoke the read line method of buffered reader class using this BR. That's why BR.readLine. Once you understand this, program is easy only. In my class, what is my class? Test. Test is my class. I am writing this class on my own. That's why here inside my class, I am using buffered reader class. But buffered reader class is there in IO package, no? Okay. Previously, we have the default package is import java.lang.star. Means all the classes and interfaces of lang package are imported to our program. But inside our class, I am using buffered reader class, and buffered reader class is not there in lang package. It is there in which package? IO package. That's why we need to import IO package. Means what is the statement we have to write? Import java.io.star. Means all the classes and interfaces of this IO package are imported to this program. Means if you write like this, buffered reader class is available in my program in addition to this test class. So inside test class, I can create buffered reader class and I can use read line method of buffered reader class. Okay, that's why we need to import java.io.star. If you write explicitly import java.io.star, already default statement is also available here. That is import java.lang.star. So we can write any number of import statements. Okay, it need not be one. So if you write explicitly this statement, all default statement that is import java.lang.star is also available. So inside this program, we have all the classes and interfaces of both the packages lang and IO are available. Okay, that is means we can write any number of import statements here. Next, so my class name is test. Inside that I am writing my main method. Inside that, see, I have created an integer array with size 4. Now I want to initialize this array with BufferedReader class. Means I want to assign the values through keyboard. Means I want to take the values from the keyboard and I want to initialize this array. That is my concept. So how do I take the values through keyboard is already explained. BufferedReader BR is equal. First you have to create object for BufferedReader class. With this reference variable, I can access the readLine method of BufferedReader class. Okay, and the return type of readLine method is string. You remember these points enough. So this is the object creation for BufferedReader class. After that, I will take one for loop to initialize the array. So this syntax already explained. Now only concentrate on this line. Okay. Now br.readLine already explained, no? Because readLine method is a non-static method inside BufferedReader class. That's why I have to access this non-static method using object reference only. There is no other way. The thumb rule is non-static methods of one class can be accessed using object references only. Okay, that's why I need to create object reference for BufferedReader class. Then with that object reference, I will access readLine method. That's why this statement is important. That is, how do we create an object for BufferedReader class and how do I access the readLine method of BufferedReader class. That is br.readLine. Br is the object reference. So br.readLine. So what is the return type of br.readLine? Already explained. It returns string, no? That's why, suppose if you give value that is 2 through keyboard now. Suppose br.readLine is taking the value as 2 through keyboard, then it is stored, okay, as string, no? Because readLine method is reading the value 2 and it is returning string 2. That's why conversion is required to convert that string into integer, like command line arguments only. So here br.readLine is returning string. So I am converting that string into integer using this, and that integer value is stored in the first index of the array, that is a of 0. Similarly, this loop is repeated. Whenever this loop is repeated, okay, we have to give one value through keyboard and it reads that value and it converts that value using this one, and that integer value is stored here. Like that, I am taking the values through keyboard using br.readLine. Now here you can, if you observe the difference between previous programs and this program, here for each time, means when I is equal 0, I can give one value through keyboard. Next I can give one more value. Like that I can give 4 values correct only. But I am executing this program first time. I have given the values like 2, 3, 4, 5. But the same program, if I execute second time, I need not give 2, 3, 4, 5 now. I can give different values 10, 20, 30, 40. That is the advantage of taking the values through keyboard. If you initialize directly like this, now let us take for loop or this one. I will explain with this one difference. So suppose if you initialize like this, if you execute 10 times this program, okay, for each execution, the array consists of the same values. If you execute 10 times, you will get the array with the same values. But that is not correct now in real time. That's why always better to take the values through keyboard only. Initialization is only, sometimes it is correct only when you take college code. College code, the value is always same, no? When you execute 10 times also. In that case, we can use initialization. College code, our college code is 24. So int college code is equal to 24, that is correct only. But it is not always correct. That's why always better to take the values through keyboard. For each execution, we can take different values through keyboard. That is the advantage of taking the values through keyboard. So in Java, we can use buffered reader class to take the values through keyboard using these two statements. First one is buffered reader BR is equal to new buffered reader of new input stream reader of system.in. This is the object creation for buffered reader class. Next, this is accessing of this readline method of buffered reader class. That is br.readline. So if you understand these two statements enough to take the values through keyboard using buffered reader class. Next here what is the drawback of this is, here in buffered reader class we have only one method. What is that method? Readline is the only one method, no? So inside buffered reader class I have only one method, that is readline. It is always reading the values as string. Okay, and here conversions are required based on your data type, means based on the data type of the array. Suppose if you take the array data type as float, here the conversion is integer dot parse float. If you take the array as double, parse double, like that, here compulsory we need to convert this string into the corresponding data type. Okay, that's why conversions are required for this readline method, because readline method is returning the string. Okay, that is the drawback of readline method of buffered reader class. Next, last one is scanner class. So scanner class is also a predefined class. It is available in java.util package. Java.io is one predefined package. Java.util is another predefined package. Okay, whenever you want to access or whenever you want to use scanner class inside your class, always you must import java.util.star or java.util.scanner if you want to import only one class. Star means it will import all the classes. Okay. Now what is the advantage of scanner class over buffered reader class is, inside the buffered reader class we have only one method, that is readline method, which is returning strings. But the advantage of scanner class is, here inside the scanner class, for each data type one separate method is there. That is, if you want to use integer array, then take next int. Okay, next byte, next star, next short, next long, next double, like that. Next line is similar to readline method of buffered reader class. In addition to the next line, here we have these methods. Okay, based on the data type, directly we can use that method. No need to use conversions. Means we need not take integer dot parse int, integer dot parse float, like that. Okay, in place of that conversion directly, means here time is we directly, if you use direct method, then no need to convert, no, means conversions are not required, means we are saving the time, no. That's why scanner class is having importance. Okay, the advantage of scanner class over buffered reader class is, here direct methods are there based for each data type, or direct methods are there for each numerical data type. There are only 6 numerical data types out of 8. For all the 6 numerical data types, we have separate 6 methods like this. And suppose if it is next double, it returns double only. If it is next int, returns int. But for character and for character data type, we have to use next line. Next line means it is returning string, like readline method. Now it is easy only. And object creation also. And one more important point is, all these are static methods. Static or non-static? Non-static only. So all these methods are non-static methods in scanner class. You know how to access non-static methods of one class in another class is using object reference. So for that reason, first we need to create object for the scanner class. So how do I create object for the scanner class is using this syntax. See, this syntax is very, very easy when you compare with buffered reader class. Okay. Now scanner s is equal to new scanner of system.in. System.in is for taking the value from the keyboard. So what is the object creation statement for scanner class is simple. Scanner s is equal to new scanner of system.in. That's why we can use scanner class. Now same, this is the default statement And here I am writing util package, or I am importing util package, because scanner class is a predefined class which is available in predefined package java.util. That's why import java.util.star. This is default one. This we have to write explicitly, because scanner class is not available in lang package. Scanner class is available in util package. That's why you need to import scanner class using this statement. Next, after that, same. Next, I have created one integer array. I want to initialize this integer array using scanner class. Means through keyboard I want to assign the values inside the array. How do I use keyboard? Using scanner class. So first you create object like bufferedreader class. Scanner s is equal to new scanner of system.in. After that, take for loop. So for int I is equal to 0, I less than a dot length, because array variable name is a, no? So a dot length I plus plus. Next, enter the value. Now it will ask you to enter one value, like printf and scanf statements in C language. So here also we first write enter the value. Now it will ask you to enter one value through keyboard. Now I will enter 3. Next, after that, s dot next int. So with this object reference, I can access the non-static method, that is next int method of scanner class. That's why s dot next int means here I have entered 3 now. So that 3 is taken as 3 only because of this next int. And the return type of this next int is int, you know. That's why it returns 3 only. And that 3 is stored in the variable or in the array index 0. Means a of 0 is equal to 3. Okay, means inside the array, the first inside the index 0, 3 is stored. Next, this loop is get repeated again. Next, I is equal to 1. Again, it will ask you to enter the second value to store inside the second index of the array. Now I will give 4. Next, again s dot next int takes 4 as it is, means like int only, and returns int only. That's why a of 1 holds 4. Next, again it will repeat. Like that, the loop is repeated. Here a dot length is 5, you know. Okay, 5 times the loop is repeated, and each time it will ask you to enter one value. So I will give 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 5 values. Okay, I will give. So those 5 values are stored inside the array. So this is reading the value through keyboard using scanner class. So next, I want to display the array using this for loop. So try to understand bufferedreader class and scanner class. Next, how do we declare, create and initialize in one step is, in the previous one we are writing declaration, creation and initialization in 3 steps now. Here this is the direct initialization of the array. Means at the time of declaring the array, we can initialize the array. Means int a is equal to 2, 3, 4, 5 means, so based on these values, array size is created. And see here, with this statement, memory is like this. This is nothing but declaration, creation and initialization are done in one step. Okay, so with this, one-dimensional arrays are completed. Next class we will see 2-dimensional arrays and arrays of object references. Arrays are very, very important in Java.